starting. I just want to welcome everybody to our April on the Menu discussion. Our topic today is how trauma manifests itself in the body. I have a whole slideshow, so I'm going to go ahead and get that. I can't see the chat, so if anybody has any questions during this, you're going to have to actually use your voices and speak up, please, and thank you. So yeah, like I said, this is our April on the Menu. We are talking about how trauma manifests itself in the body. So first, to define trauma, because I have noticed that there are people who don't understand exactly what trauma is. It is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience that can have lasting negative effects on a person's mental, emotional, or physical well-being. It's often, but not always, caused by exposure to severe stress, violence, accidents, or other life-threatening situations. It can be acute, chronic, or complex, depending on the nature and the duration of the traumatic experience. It can also be prolonged in nature with repeated exposure to traumatic events like violence in the home, emotional abuse, severe and prolonged stress like financial stress, and that sort of thing. Sorry, I thought I heard somebody try to come into the Zoom. I'm jumping back really quick. Okay, if somebody tried to, I missed it. Oops. Okay. Back to the presentation. Sorry. We had somebody doing that for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the impacts of trauma on the physical body and where you feel it. But before we talk about any of this, I want everybody to do something for me. I want everybody to sit up nice and straight. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to roll your shoulders back and loosen them. I want you to wiggle your hips to loosen your lower back. I want you to take the top of your mouth and take a nice deep inhale and exhale it all the way out. Anybody notice anything? Oh, y'all can open your eyes now.
Feels nice.
A reset.
Mm-hmm. Did I just hit some major stress points y'all didn't even realize were there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I recognize it when you said take the tongue off her.
Yeah.
That's
the biggest.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
already like in that. What is it? Like my. Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yep. So, yeah. And I want to talk about that too, the fight or flight, because actually there are 4 responses: fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. Fight, flight, fawn, like a baby deer, and freeze. And so it's not, your body's not always in fight or flight. In fact, very often mine ends up in the other 2, fawn and freeze. Fawn, because I was taught from the youngest age that the fastest way to get somebody to back off is to absolutely agree with them, whether you agree with them or not. So anyway, yeah, let's talk about where we feel this in the body, right? Tense muscles, we just talked about, we just felt that. Migraines. Very often these migraines are caused by clenching your jaw. Which is a stress response. Taking your tongue off the roof of your mouth will cause you to release your jaw. Rapid heartbeat. Those panic attacks that you feel. Yeah. Digestive issues. Stomach aches from even thinking about it. But it goes beyond that. It's not just the stomach aches. Increased blood pressure. Because along with that rapid heartbeat, your blood pressure spikes in preparation for this event that's not coming.
Yeah.
You get immune system suppression. You get increased physical sensitivity. I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but when you're extremely stressed, touch yourself. And I don't mean in a just like reach out and
You're tense.
touch your arm. Not only are you tense, your skin is so much more sensitive in that time. Yeah,
Like heightened sensory.
you do.
sensory.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But reaching out and actually touching yourself like that can help you ground yourself in the moment as well.
I know you did, but I never thought about touching yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
that it helps.
I already know I can feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this just helps you affirm that I am real and I am in the present, which is a mechanism to sort of deal with the trauma response. Not the trauma itself, but the response within its body.
Right.
Have you guys noticed anywhere else in your body where you notice?
My stomach mostly, my stomach always had issue, always and scared.
Yeah.
Either anxiety, upset stomach, or yeah. Oh
That's, I feel like it's kind of not commonly talked about where we're not thinking about the stress, but at the same time, you're experiencing constipation. You know, this, oh, I can't eat, or indigestion. These are
Mhm.
all things that we don't really think about that are manifestations of trauma. We just think, oh, I ate something wrong, or oh, I just may have done this wrong, but we don't kind of link what triggers in that.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's I can't even the thought of eating is impossible when I'm stressed. I become immediately nauseous at the thought of any kind of anything going into my stomach.
Mhm.
And then when you don't eat, that's kind of where all sickness and diseases happen,
Mhm.
especially when you don't eat, body loses calories, the temperature drops, you're susceptible to being cold,
Mhm.
and that's pretty much the gateway to sickness for everyone.
It
Mhm.
really is. And when your body is in this trauma response, you are burning more calories than normal existence. And so afterwards, you are going to feel that whether you recognize it or not, you are going to feel that deficit. You're going to feel the dehydration. You're going to feel the lack of calories. And it may manifest as something like a migraine
The screen
or,
sharing's not-
oh,
Yeah.
why is my screen sharing not working? Why didn't somebody tell me my screen sharing wasn't working?
I know, like we were just
You
feeling the flow,
guys.
man.
You guys are all fired. Holy cow.
Share.
Oh my word. Yeah, I thought it was sharing. Good
There we
Lord.
go.
Good Lord, you guys. This is
Oh, you're
terrible.
fine. You're
This is
good.
awful. Okay.
Okay, it's working again now. That's what matters.
Wonderful. Okay. And that explains why I couldn't see the chat or anything else. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So after these trauma responses, you don't think about it, but what you really need to do is you need to take some time to replenish what you've just lost. You need to replenish those calories, you need to replenish that water, and you need to rest. Your body and your mind both need it.
Those are the last things you want to do.
You're
When
right.
you're stressed.
You're right.
Oh
You don't
yeah.
want to sleep, you don't want to drink water.
Yep.
You're just getting.
I just rather sit there and
Yes.
stew until I can feel the pressure cooker that is my brain implode.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But what if you can't even sleep? What if you're sick or you're forced to
Mm.
drive yourself insane?
No, that'd be horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very often we separate our physical body from our brain, right? But our brain is a physical thing that resides in our body and does physical things, not just mental things. And of course, you can argue that the mental things are all physical as well, electrical connections and
That's shit there in the brains. Oh my God.
You have the line
I can't.
separated and it was like.
I'm sorry. To the person that is on the iPhone, can you please repeat that? I don't think we could hear you.
I don't think they meant to. Okay,
Okay, sorry.
so let's talk about some of the impacts of trauma on the brain. So we've been kind of using both stress and trauma kind of interchangeably. And I just want to clarify that we are talking about the stress that comes from living with trauma. Because living with trauma is inherently stressful. There are constant triggers and physical and emotional responses. So let's talk about some of the impacts on the brain. You get things like flashbacks, nightmares, insomnia, hypervigilance, isolation, amnesia, irritability, aggression, panic attacks, mental and emotional exhaustion, dissociation, loss of self-esteem, depression, personality change, repetition of the same hurtful behaviors. But even more so, you can actually have morphological changes in the hippocampus of your brain, which can be passed on to the next generation.
Mhm.
Not just mothers and grandmothers, right? Because we all know that we're the ones who, like, how do I explain this? When an AFAB person has a female child, that child, before that child was born, has all the eggs they're ever going to have in their entire life. And so those were actually created a whole generation before. And the impacts, there are numerous studies that show that the impacts on the grandmother, the trauma, can be passed down to the children and the grandchildren genetically. I have some suggested books at the end of this. And in one of them, I was actually reading that the stress of complex PTSD, which is a whole different animal from PTSD, whether the DSM-5 acknowledges it or not, can actually cause your DNA to unravel. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, and that's a whole different animal from regular PTSD, because regular PTSD, you've got one incident to deal with, where with complex PTSD, it is just compounded over an entire lifetime. And they've actually discovered that children with complex PTSD are often misdiagnosed because the symptoms are so different. Oppositional defiant disorder, disruptive mood dysregulation syndrome, because they don't,
Personality disorder.
yeah, yeah, because they don't fit the criteria for PTSD. And a lot of these psychologists and psychiatrists, because complex PTSD isn't in the DSM-5, they don't know anything about it.
Jeez.
Yes, and just to veer off a little bit, get up on my soapbox for a minute, they also neglected to add a disorder to the DSM-5 that would deal with a lot of this, and it's called developmental trauma disorder. And there's some suggested reading at the end, and I definitely recommend looking into that. The reason they didn't put it in the DSM-5 is because they said it's just basically a cluster of other symptoms that are better diagnosed by other things. But if you look at the developmental trauma disorder, it actually deals with these children who from a young age are dealing with complex PTSD and how it changes everything about them. Really, really cool.
Mm.
not
Yeah,
the
that's
complex PTSD, the studies.
Won't be the way.
Yeah.
When you see 5, if you elaborate.
Oh, okay. So the DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual that psychologists and psychiatrists use to diagnose and gain information on mental illness. So the DSM-5, I believe, was released in 2017, and it's the most recent version.
And that's pretty much the.
It is. It's created by the American Psychiatric Association. There's some issues with it. The National Institute of Mental Health did not agree with some of the stuff in the DSM-5 and recommended that we stop using that as diagnostic criteria and use a different book, but I can't remember what the name of the other book was, but it's from Europe, not from here in the States.
Probably why.
Well, also the DSM has just become a pet of the APA.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have certain opinions of behavioral versus.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big war with the ABA and psych field.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, what can you do? What is in your control, right? There's therapy. That is the number one most recommended solution is therapy. If you have complex PTSD, I definitely recommend looking very, very deeply into CBT before engaging in it.
Yeah, it's
CBT, yeah, I think.
Not leave the, yeah. So CBT can actually cause more harm than good if you have complex PTSD.
Mhm.
Correct.
Regular PTSD, CBT is great.
Mhm.
In the books, EMDR is highly recommended. Personally, I highly recommend DBT. Just because understanding that two different things can be true at the same time is kind of helpful, especially if you're dealing with parent issues.
The PT did more than the PT.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
had a therapist that used CBT as her treatment like modality,
mhm.
and I ended up just stop showing up to sessions because I'm like, I'm really not getting anything out of it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if the problem is like the way my brain thinks and the way my brain processes things, how am I supposed to take control and take charge of that?
But still
Yes.
be on this medication.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's part of the problem with talk therapy,
mhm,
right? Is that a lot of people with PTSD are looking for tools.
mhm,
Talk therapy doesn't give you tools.
Well, and they also say now they're coming up with new things to treat trauma,
Mhm.
because it's a different aspect of it. But,
Yeah.
you don't want to relive your trauma. You don't have to relive your trauma to get better.
True.
What you really want to do is, it's not the event that really traumatizes, it's the emotion, right? The emotion
Yes.
that goes with it. And so if you can deal with the emotion and
Mhm.
with that trauma, you're better likely to get, kind of swing a little bit through it.
mhm.
Yeah. Some of the other recommended therapies are internal family systems, which I have found to be incredibly helpful myself.
It's like inside out.
Depending on family.
If we only.
Yeah.
That's the key, right? Is that you can build those in your own way, in your own mind, your family systems, which to me was really helpful because I had to remove half of my family.
Mhm.
Right, and I think that's kind of where, especially from, in a cultural sense, or the Asian heritage, right? You saw in the statistic, 82% denied.
Oh yeah.
So let's even talk about that 18% that don't deny. Even if they don't deny it, how deep, how in depth are they not in denial? Are they
Yes.
just enough to be like, oh, yeah, we have this, and then that's it, and then they don't scratch the surface
Mhm.
because they're ashamed, or in my culture, shame is used as kind of a harmful and a helpful tool in some aspects.
And that's
Yes.
a lasting one. So-
Right.
Mm.
But
Read that right on.
but speaking of shame and speaking of I don't want to pinpoint anyone to think that I'm, going against Korean culture, but because I'm Korean, I'm speaking up for what most have experienced. But let's talk about this shame. Let's talk about this trickle of CPTSD that is not only ingrained, but it's pretty much introduced into the baby's hippocampus, right?
Mhm.
But once it's identified within the hippocampus and within their brain, it doesn't matter what happens, every cell structure formed or created is recognized within that sequence of that brain anatomy. So even if someone is not born into trauma and they have a full, family and parents with school and all the other, like a roof over their heads, food, and they don't think about what other family members are thinking about, saying, hey, these are things I didn't have at your age. So because you're not dealing with this, you're okay. And they're not really pinpointing, saying like, hey, we experienced a lot of these things. They're not even willing to talk about their history. And that I feel like goes along with the shame. And being a Korean American, I've learned you have to kind of let that go.
Mhm.
You can't let other people, especially if you're trying to talk to your family, right? Because they may be ashamed of themselves. But it's like, how do you not keep going with the cycles, but how do you also break the chain?
Mhm.
It's just hard to identify these things, right?
It really is. It really is, especially when you come from a culture where, well, this is the way we do it. It's the way it's always been done.
Yeah.
I turned out fine.
Right.
And you don't have those other influences to show you that it's not okay.
Mhm.
But it's like if you don't change a filter in like a machine process,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe 10 years ago it was perfect for you, but 20 years later, guess what? There might be holes in that filter. There might be some parts that you need to fix or reproduce. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but let me not go on my own.
No, it's true.
This is we love tangents.
Yes, that's what this is all about.
This is a pro tangent space.
Mhm. Yeah.
I just think about, because sometimes when I was growing up, I would question, why do I feel this anxious, weird feeling? And my parents are like, calm down. I'm like, I want to calm down, but what I'm feeling internally, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then, 15 years later, they're like, oh, I went through this when I was your age. I'm like, well, maybe that's what I was feeling at that exact moment when I was, experiencing. And then you kind of wonder, right?
Mhm.
How far does this genetic code go? Is it based on the timeline of someone's development?
Mhm.
So if this happened when they were 15, does it happen if we don't break the cycle? Does it happen again when they hit 15
Mhm.
or before 15,
Mhm.
right? Those are questions that now I'm pondering.
Yeah.
For
Like
sure.
how many corrective experiences can you give yourself to where you don't pass it on to your child?
Right.
Yeah.
There was this meme thing where a guy had something over his hand, right? Like a blanket, and he was like, this is all you need to understand. Everything that's going on here is connected. Everything that's going on here is connected. Like no matter which way you go, where you're coming from, even if it's a different time zone, everything has a connection way or another if we figure it out.
Mhm.
And it's just kind of it's up to us to really open our eyes and see where is it.
It
I feel
is.
like half the time, if our parents or our past families are in denial and they don't want to process, the pain, because
Mhm.
it's not even, maybe it's not shame, maybe it's not guilt, it's pain. It's painful processing it.
Yeah.
But how do you overcome that grief as a family as a whole if the person that is, the center of it all can't let go?
Mhm.
So how is the younger generation supposed to fix it when the older don't even want to come to terms with it? That's kind of what I'm facing,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Mhm. That's
So,
hard.
May I,
It's fun.
may I step in for a second? It's
Yeah,
perseverance.
please.
Yes, please.
I'm driving to work right now, so I'm trying my best. Perseverance is what happens. It's like for me, the new DSM code that came out in 2017, they've changed ADHD into bipolarism to get more funding or more money. And I've been fighting and fighting and fighting for 2 years to get the bipolar diagnosis off my chart. And you got to fight and keep going. Don't give up. Get another provider. And the provider who put that diagnosis on me was finally fired from the institution that she was at. So, just keep strong, and then also talk to other providers. Like I've been talking to to the head of NAMI, this lady here, and she's helped me stay focused and make me feel like I am not wrong, that I was correct in what I was pushing for. So that's another trauma, is with the medical system itself, not standing up for you and not being there for you too. That's another difficult trauma in trying to get back into being helped, that I actually had to go back to ABH, and a new person is now taken over for me, and she apologized profusely what happened. But that was very hard for me with my PTSD of being abused by that same institution, and trying to go to many other places around town, and nobody would take me because of what was written down on my record incorrectly.
I'm so glad they are finally getting that fixed for you and you found somebody to help you.
2 years it took.
Yay.
Well, and that's another thing, is finding therapy in and of itself is a traumatic process,
Mhm.
right?
Having insurance cover.
Oh my God. Or finding somebody who will take your insurance, who does the therapies that you need, who has a slot open.
Yeah.
Availability in the first 3 months.
Oh my God.
But then let's not even talk about deductible.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh,
And
you have
let's talk
insurance?
about
Cool.
the
You
money.
did? Cool.
The-
Deductible.
The
Right.
money right now, it's $1,000 for the initial visit, and it's $500 for every visit out of pocket.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. More
Yeah.
than a car, more than my car in
Oh.
2 days, 2 visits.
And there's a lot of therapists quietly exiting right now
Oh, wow.
because they cannot handle the secondhand trauma. And the mental health professionals that are left, a lot of them aren't taking insurance because the reimbursement rates are so low.
So,
And so to
yeah.
get somebody who's actually like worth a damn, you have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And these
Yeah.
costs are just it's no wonder we don't have a functional society.
It's rent.
It
Well,
is.
But
It
it's
is.
also- but
Absolutely.
it's also planned. If you think about it, which was really the eye opener for me, was talking to the defense lawyer for 45 of the January 6th people. And she had stated on a video, it's great, you should really watch it, that she said every one of them was deemed by the court mentally ill. And she said every single one of them was lonely and isolated and not getting health care. And the far right reached out to them and made them feel like their brothers and sisters, and manipulated them into doing these actions. So we are fighting the GOP because they're finding that most of their people are mentally ill and disturbed. And those are the ones that are going and shooting people up and everything else. It's the lack of mental health care, which we were discussing at Society of Neuroscience, is one of the major problems that we're having to fight right now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So, and then that's another reason why your funding is going away too. They're trying to keep away any kind of help for anybody.
Hi, Janet. This is David here.
No, that's not Janet. That's Lisa.
Lisa, I'm so sorry.
I've
Oh my
got it up
gosh.
as loud as I can.
I am so sorry about that. Are you speaking directly into your phone?
Yes,
Yeah, it's just my computer.
I'm a little
Oh,
bit
okay.
behind, and I'm driving right now to my work. I have to work at 1.
Oh, no, I understand. I'm sorry.
No, it's my speakers. It's really hard to hear in the office.
Okay.
It's okay.
But that's why we have to, that's why at the Society of Neuroscience, they're putting up stuff now. They're doing telecommunications is helping, and the 988 call is helping substantially. And that was a push by the American Psychologists Association to get 988 going.
Yeah, no, 988 has been absolutely instrumental. Okay, let's, oh, I was gonna say one last thing I was gonna say on the therapy. Somatic therapy, if you guys have not experienced it, is absolutely amazing.
Say that again.
Somatic
So mad.
therapy, it's where they work your body.
Okay.
It's like
That's what I
touch
mean.
therapy almost.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I mean.
It helps you release. I don't want to sound like new agey or anything, but it really helps you release your chakras. And and those, it's crazy because you know your chakras happen to be places you hold stress.
Mhm.
So the somatic therapy is, it's painful, but it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
it is.
Medical. You have to be referred.
No.
You know,
Um
is that vitamin?
mhm.
That's actually what I want really. to
Oh,
focus
man,
on,
would that be
getting
good?
somatic cancer.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
hired.
Yeah, so you know, other options are medication, right? And medications work, but they don't work alone. None of these things work alone, right? None of them. You have to use all of them together.
Yeah,
And
yeah, well, yeah, well, yeah.
I would go so far as to suggest that without, so it talks about emotional regulation, right? And I would go so far as to suggest that if you are not physically regulating, making sure you have enough sleep, making sure you're
Oh.
eating the right things and properly fueling your body, making sure you're drinking enough water and not being dehydrated. I would suggest that if you're not doing those three things before you start any of this, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage from the get-go.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes, because the purpose of sleep is for your, what happens is your brain shrinks and then cerebral spinal fluid goes through it and gets out the toxins and all the bad stuff. So that's why it's very, very important to sleep. That's the number one thing, is at least get 8 hours of sleep.
And at least 4 uninterrupted. If you can't manage a full 8.
Yeah. Yeah, 2-8.
Mm.
Wait, though, that depends on your circadian rhythms.
Right, and I was gonna say, also depends on your biology.
Yes.
Your biological clock's 10 p.m., 2 a.m. You want to rest. So then, because that's the time where all the stress sensors are turned off, all the receptors reset, all your hormones can rebalance and reset as well. But usually, what happens in Alaska at 10 o'clock at night? Summer, we are wide awake.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah.
And in the winter, we're asleep by 2 p.m.
Yeah. And for the
Waking up at 2.
So much for regulating.
and for the entire month of March, we are manic.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. I have figured out that at the equinoxes, our daylight is approximately equal to the contiguous 48. That is why
Yeah.
we are manic.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
We're not
I
used to the sun.
firmly believe in meditation, but I don't think that meditation has to be this big, scary thing. Meditation can be as simple as sitting down, closing your eyes, taking some deep breaths like we did at the beginning here, and picturing yourself somewhere calming.
Mhm.
When I was a junior in high school, we took this random class on like life skills. And one of the things we learned how to do was to take a 2-minute vacation. Set the timer on your phone, picture yourself in your favorite place, see it, hear it, smell it, taste it if you can. I don't know what sense I missed. But use all 5 of your senses if you can. The more senses you use, the more relaxing it becomes.
Mhm.
You don't have to just sit there quietly and try to silence your brain, because good God, who with ADHD can silence their brain?
I mean,
Sometimes.
You lie.
this
Like a rug.
is all of that. They talk about there's a 6th sense feeling
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
especially with umami taste.
Mhm.
So like, let's say we translate that into a, mental awareness type, it'd be like, are you feeling everything?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not only seeing, tasting, hearing, but do you at like to your human being's core, do you feel what you're asking?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
that's really important too, and I'm learning that just now, even that to feel, like everything.
Yes.
Ask yourself, like, how does this make me
Yeah,
feel?
yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest
And
question.
Mhm.
that way, and two, you get to really know yourself. And if you're really honest with yourself, you really get to know yourself.
Right.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, you really are a good person.
Yeah.
well, I have to get going. Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this NAMI thing. And if you guys want some more information on trauma, you can get a hold of me.
Love that. Thank
Awesome.
you so much.
Thank you so much for coming and being here.
Stay in a little trouble. That's a little bit of fun too.
Absolutely. Always just a little bit.
Thank you, Lisa.
Take care. Bye-bye.
But yeah, so meditation doesn't have to be scary. In fact, I've got some resources here in the office that I can share with you.
Right. Like, you're not required to.
Some stickers,
Yeah. Rub some
Right?
stickers.
coloring. Yes.
Yeah.
Being out there. And it's singing about, so that's basically you're manipulating this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look around, you can see this room is full of art stuff. We heavily encourage the use, not just during our craft afternoons, but if you're having a day, let us know. Come on in. That we have, I think we have close to 100 coloring books. Yeah. And all the crafting stuff you can possibly imagine. You've got all the decompression stuff here. We've got squishmallows, we've got fuzzy blankets. Yeah.
Thing.
Ooh.
Because that's what we're doing pictures.
Ooh. We should talk about you hosting some of our craft
Yeah.
afternoons.
Ah.
Um,
Do you do paint nights too?
I haven't yet,
I've got,
but that's my goal.
Fun.
nice, yes. Well, and we've got stuff that we could literally do painting classes in here, but we are digressing.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So what's in your control, right? Literally, the only thing that is in your control is yourself. How you respond to it. Learning your triggers. That's the biggest thing, because if you don't learn your triggers, then how are you going to control it? Right? So these last three things: psychoeducation, self-research, emotional regulation, and cognitive and emotional processing. They're so important. But you have to have all of this. Well, I won't say you have to have medication, but the rest of it, it all has to work together. It's important, because if you only have pieces, you're only going to get partial healing. And it is possible to heal. Recovery is possible. Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, two real heavy duty things from teenagers. And I thought, wow, and I just started burying.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I knew. I thought I knew. No, it came back.
Yeah.
For us, and it's like, I was reminded of it by my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Oh,
It,
I'm going to be 50 this summer, and I am still having buried memories surface. It is insane.
Oh, even about that. I should be living life.
There's a lot of grief in mental illness, and anger is one of the stages. It's one I deal with a lot.
Jordan left us.
Yes, Jordan left us, so it is just us. So let's get to the end. Here we go. Recommended reading. Rebecca, that first one, What My Bones Know, by Stephanie Fu. It is from an Asian American female perspective. You really should check it out. She's not a big fan of Vanderkolk, who did The Body Keeps the Score, just because it was later found out he was an abuser. Yeah.
Well, not only that,
His information was revolutionary.
yeah.
The body keeps score. I was like, all right, I love this mad genius that's typing up the book,
Wait,
but I
let
was
me-
like,
Here.
how does this person know the body that much in depth without
Yes.
certain experiments? And then him being an abuser,
Mhm.
oh, 100% make sure.
Yeah.
And again, I've kind of watched like all these movies and studied like certain psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
It's like there's genuinely no way that someone goes to the extremes of learning certain things. It like
Mhm.
without
Crossing that line. Yeah, unfortunately.
not everyone does cross that line, but a lot of the ones that get to that epitome of like, wow, this is revolutionary. It's
Mhm.
usually because they harm someone else to get
I
that.
mean,
Like John Lennon.
What do you mean?
Hans Asperger,
Oh yeah, Hans Asperger, John Lennon. John Lennon abused you, I don't know.
heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went both ways though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's also tea that Bessel van der Kolk plagiarized parts of Bobby Keys for. Or used somebody else's.
I
And I
That
could
happens a
definitely see
lot.
that because a lot of the information, some of them in between the book, it's like it's a little inconsistent
yeah,
with the research. Where you're
Right.
like, I know you're smart, but how do you know it?
right.
Right.
Where you can't be just one person. You've seen certain research articles and books where even just one page has like 10 different research documents.
Mhm.
I know you're that great, but you have to have some sort of other experience. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
Borderline cereal.
Yeah, right. Okay, and so then this last one. What happened to you?
I heard about this one. I have not had my.
I have that book.
I'm gonna take a picture.
This book is
I'm gonna go watch it.
so incredible. Instead of asking somebody, what's wrong with you? It encourages us to ask, happened to you?
Because everybody has a story, everybody.
Yes.
has a little bit of a story, if not a big one, a little one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are my recommended reading. I'm always here for more ideas, more things to stock in our library because we do have a library. So
Yeah, the one my bones.
no, but I can share it with you on Audible.
Okay.
Another good book. It Didn't Start With You by Mark.
Oh yes, that one is so good.
I bet it sounds good. You can start with you. Yeah, it sounds really good.
I don't know if
Yes.
this one would help, but emotional 2.0,
Yes,
emotional intelligence 2.0.
that one is really good.
That one changed my life
And I can
when
do
I
it,
opened
but honestly,
the first page, and that was back in 2014.
Isn't that Brene Brown?
No,
No, it's
no, but her Braving the Wilderness is incredible.
I've been nervous about Brene Brown. But
No,
like a lot of people,
Listen,
like,
listen to Braving the Wilderness.
yeah.
It's the only thing by her that I have consumed. And you know me, you know how I am. Yes, very much.
Mhm.
Very, very much.
and Travis Brand. Those are the two that did the emotional intelligence.
Yeah. I think we have that book here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna buy that book.
You can borrow it. Anything in our library. Yeah.
I'm
All
trying
right.
to think right now. When did it first came out?
There's been a few editions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this particular, yes, 2009. So in 2009 it came out. I didn't get it on my hand until a couple of years later because it didn't kind of like it was like first published back in 2009, but it did not hit the top shelves of Barnes and Noble until like 2011, 12. After 2012, that's when it started hitting. Because people actually started reading.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And eventually we'll have our library logged and listed online so that people can come in and check books out. But yeah, I'll show you that one. What did we miss?
What is up and coming up for NAMI, I guess.
No, I meant about trauma in the body.
Oh,
Let's
oh.
finish this first so I
Oh.
can stop my recording.
Yeah, pretty dead on.
Good deal.
I guess you could give this homework.
I got homework for you. Cool. Well, I just want to thank everybody who attended. We appreciate your participation, and I will have this up online on YouTube shortly, I hope.
Yay.